To start with, I'm going to review some basic mark making techniques. These aren't the only marks, but these are some. If you'll notice, I'm holding my pencil really far back. I do that when I'm trying to create shading or when I'm trying to make a specific mark. Sometimes I'll go closer to the point, but I like to keep my hand midway to all the way back at the eraser when I draw. And that's really quite different from what you do when you're writing. So these are some basic hatch marks that I'm making. A hatch mark is a mark that goes one direction. This is a cross hatch. I bet a lot of you have done that before. And there's more than one way to do a cross hatch. Here's a diagonal cross hatch. And this is to help warm you up, but you can use these marks anywhere on your drawings. Try doing a curved one, where it's a cross hatch, but it's a curved cross hatch. Okay, so for this exercise, I want you to hold your pencil right about there. And your pencil should be so loose that someone can come up behind you and grab it out of your hand. You're not holding it in a death grip. So you really want to make sure that you're light with your pencil. A lot of students will oftentimes press too hard. So here's what we're going to be drawing. And you're going to be focusing on the shell, but also on your mark. You want to make sure that you are doing light. So the goal is to pretty much do a shell and get some detail, but go as light as you can. And you can see I put my shell right near the paper where I'm drawing it. It's actually on my paper. It's easier if you have it closer to your drawing. You don't have as far to go with your eye, kind of keeping it in your brain and then translating that image onto the paper. So we're doing some direct observation work today. That's really good to try and hone your skills, is to draw from life. And it does not have to be perfect. Today it's more about the drawing and working lightly than about the shell itself. And go slow. You can see I'm going slow on this. I'm taking my time. And we're going to be doing multiple drawings. So if you feel like this one's not successful, just wait until we get more on the paper. And again, I want you to go as light as you can. It should be barely there. And there's a reason why I want you to work light. It's way easier in the long run if you use a light mark to erase. When we get into painting, it's really imperative that you do a light drawing. If you're using a pencil under drawing, you do it really lightly because you're going to be putting paint and layering paint on top of it. You really want it to be covered. So going light is a good solution. It's also going to save your hand because your hand would cramp up or will cramp up if you're too tense. You don't want to have a death grip. You want it to be nice and relaxed. When you do press really hard and then you have to erase, it leaves grooves in the paper which are almost impossible to get out. So it's going to affect your neatness. And like I said, I'm not really that particular on this drawing that you make it look perfect. You get some of the detail on there, but like you can see on mine, it doesn't look perfect. It's just an exercise. See how light you can make it and still see the image. Okay, and that's pretty much done for that drawing. So now we're going to be changing it up and we're going to be working on a continuous line drawing. And for my demonstration, I'm using pen. You can still use pencil, you don't have to use pen. And this is a drawing where once your pen or pencil hits the paper, you can't lift up again until you're done. And as you're doing it, you should track the edge of your object with your eyes and move at the same pace your eyes are moving with your hand. This is kind of hard to do, but it comes in handy. It helps for tricky areas when you're looking at something and you want to get it just right, the more you look at an object, the more correct your drawing will end up. So it's really about looking. So you should spend more time looking at your object than looking at your paper. And if you make a mistake, like I made a mistake there, you just go back over and kind of work your way back in. You have to double back over your own lines, and it should end up looking kind of like a sculpture made out of wire. And this is not going to be a pretty drawing. A lot of continuous line drawings aren't beautiful drawings, but they're going to help you to get better at rendering and being a little bit more correct. And this is the speed I'm working at. I'm going super slow. And I'm going slow because I'm trying to be careful about rendering it correctly. The slower you go, I find the more correct you can get. And I'm doing these all about life size. Life size means the actual size of the object. That's what I want you to do as well. You can see how I'm just doubling back over my lines to kind of correct things, to fix them up. You can get more detail in, but I'm going for a simple drawing. Okay, and that is done. And that's how you can tell it's about life size. You can see it. Okay, for this next type of drawing, we're going to be doing a volume drawing. So to start out with, we're going to do a basic outline of the shell. And you can see the shell is right up there at the top of the screen. And you should be drawing these shells from your point of view, so looking down on them. And you can tell I always start out with an outline of the object first, then I go in and kind of fill in some of the details. That's what works for me. If there's a method that you prefer, you can do that. But that's what I find to be the easiest, just doing an outline and then going into the kind of the inner part and filling that out later. So I'm getting a suggestion of the shell there. Okay, so now I'm going to switch to working with the pen and ink again, just so you can see it clearly up on the board. Sometimes it's hard to see the pencil lines. So the goal with doing a volume drawing is you're going to make the lines wrap around the form. So the form in this case is the shell, and you want to curve your lines to just look like they're wrapping around, almost as if there were stripes painted on the shell. You might actually see some kind of stripes or creases on the shell. That can help you. Or kind of like if you're looking at a peppermint. Those stripes just wrap around. So they start out going one way and then they shift somewhere in the middle and they go the other way. They also get closer together as they go towards the edge, wider apart as it moves towards the middle. Think about an orange or the planet like an Earth. If it had lines wrapping around it, that's where the direction change is happening right there. And that's just helping to suggest mass or volume. So now I'm going to go the other direction with my lines. And the same rules apply. You want to start out kind of closer together at the edge, wider in the center, and then closer together as you head back down to the bottom. And you don't have to wrap it all the way around. I'm leaving it kind of open in the middle. It should look like there's a net or fishnet draped around your object. So that pretty much wraps it up.